Alicent Hightower started as a meek, dutiful friend of Princess Rhaenyra. In a way, she was Rhaenyra's polar opposite. Responsible, rule follower, someone who accepted her role in society and in the world she lives in. Like most characters in House of the Dragon, she was never truly happy, having to suppress many of her thoughts and desires, but she largely made peace with her fate and tried to make the most of it. Alicent is someone who has been raised to believe that she can best serve the realm by fulfilling her role in society, by becoming a wife of a high-ranking nobleman and sire his heirs. In this case, she pretty much won the lottery by marrying the king and giving him 3 sons and a daughter. But she's unhappy about many things in her life. For one, she was used by her father as a political pawn and pushed into a loveless marriage to a man twice her age. While she may not love her husband romantically, Alicent does seem to genuinely care for Viserys. But her relationship is more like that of a caretaker to a patient rather than a wife to a husband. Alicent's dutifulness always stood in sharp contrast to Rhaenyra's carelessness and neglect for rules. In the context of the show, this worked really well because we could see 2 perspectives, empathize with both women, and we could also see why their relationship gradually deteriorated. Of course, we can look at what is arguably the first most significant rebellious move by Alicent, her donning the green dress at Rhaenyra's wedding feast. One of Alicent's core traits has always been loyalty and devotion to her family, and that included the ailing Viserys. But very early on, she realized that she needs to be a Hightower first and Targaryen second. Her green dress served as a visual reminder, a political statement, that her loyalties lie with the family she was born into, not the one she married into. And it has been this way from this episode onward. But I would argue that the true boiling point for Alicent and Rhaenyra's relationship was reached when Aemon's eye was gouged out. From Alicent's point of view, Rhaenyra got away with her, aka Luke's, transgressions without consequence. Meanwhile, Alicent, aka Aemond, got punished for doing nothing wrong. Now, the extent of Aemon's guilt in all of this is of course debatable, but I'm talking about how Alicent sees the situation. My son, the victim, is getting further punished, while your son, the aggressor, and by extension you, are getting away with it. All her life, Alicent has dedicated to being a dutiful wife and not the best mother, but credit where credit is due. In this moment, she stood up for her son when literally no one else would, not even his own father. He always put Rhaenyra first. Alicent gave up everything to make sure her family could rise to power, and she gave everything to the family she married into. And now this is her reward. Who wouldn't be pissed? Though Alicent from the book and Alicent from the show are very different, especially after season 2, Alicent in the show does still have similar concerns and motivations, at least initially. She supported Aegon's claim to the throne not only because she misunderstood Viserys' last wish, but because she feared for her children's lives. She knew that with Rhaenyra on the throne, Aegon, Aemond, Helaena, and Daemon's lives would be in danger, her own as well as the lives of the rest of her family. Does she still care about Rhaenyra? Of course, and that's part of her internal conflict in the show. She has people on both sides that she loves. But it doesn't make sense that after Alicent realizes that she wrongly interpreted Viserys' words, now her whole life starts to crumble because of that. Sure, it's a distressing moment for her, but you know what else should have been an even more distressing moment? Losing her grandson. That's relevant for a whole episode, and then everyone kind of forgets about Jaehaerys. Alicent was ready to physically attack Luke when Aemon's eye was taken, but now that her grandson's head had been chopped off, she's gonna have not 1, but 2 civil conversations with Rhaenyra, still contemplating how they can work this out. This should have been so impactful, not only because Jaehaerys was Alicent's grandson, but because of how his unaliving affected Aegon and Helaena. At some point, you have to accept that things are in motion and they cannot simply be stopped as if nothing happened. Alicent and Rhaenyra desperately trying to stop an ongoing war is like trying to park Vhagar and expecting she won't make noise and a dent in the ground when she lands. This revelation, that Alicent was wrong about Viserys' wishes, doesn't even make for that great of a breaking point. The council had been planning to put Aegon's ass on the throne anyway.
Then we may proceed now with the full assurance of his blessing on our long-laid plans.
I to understand that members of the small council have been planning secretly to install my son without me.
Alicent's mistake played just one teeny tiny part in the whole story. but now it's a catalyst for her betraying her family and gradually losing the will to live? She would have agreed to putting Aegon on the throne anyway, because she believed Rhaenyra would be a threat to their lives. And that's not just the book Alicent either. This has been established in season 1.
If Rhaenyra comes into power, your very life could be forfeit.
Then I won't.
You are the challenge! You are the challenge, Aegon! Simply by living and breathing! My son will be anointed tomorrow at dawn. The whole of King's Landing must witness his ascent.
The writers set some foundations for an ambitious Alicent, but never followed through. She gets so upset when Aemond dismisses her and removes her from the council. She realizes she's powerless, and this drives her even further into depression and towards her eventual decision to meet Rhaenyra at Dragonstone. But a few episodes earlier, Aegon did ask Alicent for counsel.
I ruled in your father's absence throughout his long illness, and you should humbly be seeking our opinions and counsel.
What would you have me do, Mother?
Nothing.
She had the chance to advise him, influence him, and she refused. She had the opportunity, a great one, to do something much like Larys did, and she didn't want to. So she clearly doesn't care much for having influence. Why did this moment hit her so hard then? We can say, okay, she didn't want political power, she wanted respect from her children, and she realized she raised them all wrong. Right, so the answer is, screw them all, I'm going off to live my truth in the wilderness. That's an abhorrent, selfish decision that bastardizes the essence of Alicent's character, from the book as well as from the past seasons of House of the Dragon. She comes to Rhaenyra, to Dragonstone, during an ongoing war that has already caused great personal losses to both sides, and she suggests to Rhaenyra the best time to come to King's Landing and take it as a conqueror.
Aemon will soon fly to join Cole in the Riverlands. If you come then to King's Landing, I will see to it that our guards throw down their arms. We will open the gates, we will shed no blood.
I must take Aegon's head. A son for a son.
I am at last myself. The crown will pursue war and victory at any cost. As for me, I would take my daughter and her child and leave it all behind.
Alicent betrays her children, except her only female child and female grandchild. Isn't that interesting? And she agrees that she would give Rhaenyra a son for a son. First of all, Rhaenyra, what do you mean you want a son for a son? You already took a grandson for a son. And secondly, did Alicent inhale some toxic fumes at the forest she visited an episode ago? Alicent filled her children's heads with the idea that Rhaenyra and her kids are a threat. Now that they want to defend themselves from said threat, that's where Alicent draws the line. Even self-preservation doesn't motivate her anymore.
No longer our rule that is threatened. Our very lives, would you not have us prevail?
Not like this. Not like this!
It's always been Alicent's family versus Rhaenyra, from the moment she married Viserys, since the green dress moment, since Aemond's eye moment, since Luke's unaliving, Jaehaerys' unaliving. Alicent was more than aware of this in the last season. Why is she regressing? And don't tell me, oh, it's because she lost all hope. She's desperate and she thinks Rhaenyra is her best bet to end the war without spilling more blood. Yes, let's take no more lives. Except Alicent's children's lives. We'll take those because she doesn't care about them anymore anyway. She believes Aemond is a monster and she's given up on him. Aegon is crippled after a horrific attack, so screw him, right? Daeron is on his way to help the Greens, but everyone seems to forget that he even exists. And of course, Alicent would take Helaena and Jaehaera, the only two women in her family, and she would escape into the wilderness. Mom of the Year, ladies and gentlemen. A woman who always put her family first now sells them out. She risked it all to put Aegon on the throne, and now she's signing his death warrant. All because she took a swim in the lake and we're supposed to believe that all her thoughts and motivations from past episodes have gone out the window. What does coming back to Rhaenyra accomplish exactly? Rhaenyra asks her this question and the true answer is, well, because the writers kind of forgot that Alicent's main motivation for everything she does is her family. So Alicent is finally free of the evil patriarchy and gets to be herself, at the peril of her children, her faction, family, and allies. Let's just hope no one else receives the Alicent treatment in House of the Dragon Season 3. Thank you all for watching. I'll be biting into the Rings of Power Season 2 soon as well. We had lots of fun with this show 2 years ago. I'll link the playlist for you. Check it out while you wait for another video. And I'll see you soon. Bye guys.